Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Crystal, and on this channel, I talk about my experience while I was in Amway slash LTD. I was in for about 2 years, and I just share my experience while I was in, why I left, how I left, and how I feel about it now. Through this journey, I've gotten a chance to meet other IBOs who are in LTD and other AMOs, and it's been very interesting hearing their perspective and what they've gone through. Today, I get to speak with Michael Panchu again as he shares tips on how to leave, why he left, and his feelings behind leaving. I made a video already about why and how I left LTD, but I've been getting emails and more questions about tips on how to leave and just ideas on how to actually go about doing it. So I spoke with Michael again, and he shared his tips on how to leave, and maybe it can encourage others out there who want to leave but don't necessarily know how to leave. Enjoy the interview, and I'll come back afterwards for tips on how to get in contact with the FTC and more videos to come. Hey again. Thanks so much for joining me, and thanks for just talking to me again, sharing your experience and your perspective for leaving Brit Worldwide. So I guess a lot of viewers kind of want to know how we left. How did you leave? What were your emotions while you were leaving? What was the process? Kind of tell us how you left and what advice you would give to others who are wanting to leave.
Definitely. Thanks for having me again. So the how behind how I left, I definitely thought this over. Good question. So I left in a way where I wanted to validate my gut. I wanted to validate how my gut was telling me to go about things, which was leave. And the way to do that was a slow, slow burner approach, so to speak. So I took my time, carefully and slowly leaving the business, more so because I didn't want to put my mentors in a position where I just told them out of the blue, I'm leaving. I didn't want to give them the high ground to question me on, is this a emotional reaction? What's going on here? Want to give it thought, and showing some vulnerability here. I did have a soft spot for them at the time because of how much they put into me, but as we talked about in the previous video, we paid to be around these people, or we might have spoken about it in the comment section. But I'll get into it. So this was definitely thought out. The very first thing I did was unsubscribe from the BWW subscription, and that in a sense got that habit out of the way. That was one of the first steps to deprogramming from the system, if you will. So I unsubscribed from BWW, took an inventory of how I was feeling. It felt good, one less thing to do, and I substituted BWW for other audio talks, basically non BWW audio talks. So that was the start. Then I took it a step further. I started to disconnect from the BWW books, so to speak. I stopped reading the books. I even stopped reading for a couple days in general. Then that led to me picking up non BWW books, and I started to think differently about reading books because I wasn't reading to burn all this knowledge into my brain to recruit into retail.
Mm-hmm.
Third was to disconnect from messaging people on LinkedIn about a business opportunity. That definitely took up a good chunk of my day when I was building. I would send out 10, 20, 30, sometimes 50 a day. And that was that was a very good feeling because you start to see how much time just flew by just sitting there and messaging and replying and huddling with your mentor on what should I say next. This person doesn't get what I'm saying, and to get definitely pretty exhausting. The last step was I stopped posting on GroupMe. That's what my team used to post those daily updates,
Okay.
because that was probably one of my most viewed apps, was just checking in constantly what people are doing. If somebody posted that they retailed or they have someone launching in the process, it gets you fired up, and then you want to start doing all these things to recruit someone. And the final step I took was I utilized ChatGPT to write a script that I would send my mentors. Wanted to definitely showcase that I thought about leaving and I wanted to be respectable of their time. And back to my earlier point, I didn't want to just say I'm done to give them the high ground. But that was the final step, and then I sent that message to the group me, and I felt a huge burden just released from me. The reaction was definitely it was positive on their end. It wasn't them trying to guilt trip me or trying to question why I was leaving. They simply just let me go in one piece.
That is a very methodical way of leaving, and I really appreciate you just kind of having steps to leaving. And I like what you said about not kind of doing it cold turkey because you knew your mentors would kind of try to have the upper hand emotionally. Can you kind of get more into that? Like, what did you think would be said? You know what I mean? If you kind of came to them and was like, I'm leaving. What, explain that to me. Like, what do you think they would say to you?
They would say something along the lines of, "Hey, we need to talk this out. Are you feeling okay? Are you stressed?" I feel they would just kind of come up with things to say, and once they get you on a call, they'll probably give you a whole spiel about why you shouldn't leave. They'll give you all the praise, the recognition, tell you how good you're doing, but at that point, the person made up their decision, so to speak, and that's that.
Yeah. Um,
If I'm
it
being
really
perfectly honest too, I just didn't want to talk to them. Like I
and
wanted
that
it to be through text, and I didn't want to just be on a call for 30 minutes with a decision that I already pre-made and meticulously crafted out.
and that's fair because and I didn't really dawn on me until I spoke with Anna in my last interview, and she was talking about how she left strategically as well because she knew that all the brainwashing that she had experienced, it's almost like they have trigger words they would say to you. And once they say those things to you, you're kind of just like, well, oh, you're right. I shouldn't leave. And so I really appreciate just kind of like the step by step, thoughtful, methodical way of just stepping away that made sense because you're right. Had you called them, you would have probably been sucked back in. And sending it through text, you can't really, you can try to argue, but I could just ignore your text and call it a day. So I think that that's really smart just to kind of get it out of your system that way. Do you have any advice for people who are wanting to leave, but maybe they feel like they've invested so much time and energy that they don't know how to leave or that they're scared to leave? What advice do you have for them?
I would say if you want to leave, but if you have a, for a lack of a better way of saying it, if you have an ego about it, which I understand, there's a lot of people who invest so much of their time, money, and self worth into the system. For individuals like that, I would recommend the slow burner approach. Definitely something to think through in your mind, but put it on paper and then actually implement the steps. I find it pretty cool because, in a sense, you're taking knowledge from the books, but it's in reverse. You're leaving the system.
Yeah, yeah.
The slow burner helps too because you'll start to get all these episodes or instances where you start to get a part of yourself back, such as wow, 1 hour to myself, not listen to a podcast, or oh, I don't have to read for 15 to 20 minutes and then post on the group me. So you slowly start to puzzle yourself back together with the slow burn approach.
I really agree with that because the feeling of not having to be on LinkedIn, sending all those, I was the same. I was sending 20, 30 a day. It was a feeling of like weight off of my shoulder, and that feeling, just experiencing that feeling alone is worth, going through whatever you have to go through just to leave. So I appreciate you saying that.
Sure, anytime. And for those who have completely had it to the point where it's just too much, then at that point, I would say yes, go cold turkey.
Yeah. That's kind of what I did. I was just like, yeah, I'm out of here. But I
And
did go through like, go ahead.
And I don't think there's any right or wrong. It really comes down to how you're feeling. As mentioned earlier, we pay to be around these people, so I mean, you truly don't owe them anything in a sense.
Yes. I think that's important to remember is that we're owed stuff. Like we're owed anything. If anything, we're owed things. They're not owed anything. So I know it's challenging because you do have, like you said, you kind of liked your uplines. Like we had uplines that were great to us, nice to us, helped us a lot. Um, but I think we have to kind of separate the emotions from the business part and realize that, it's not working out financially. And to pay to be around someone to make you feel good, you can get that for free if you just find really good friends. You know what I mean? So I agree with that. Anything else you want to share?
I believe that's it in terms of the how behind how I left. That was my own personal story on how I left. Not a one size fits all approach, but hopefully it shed some light. Some viewers can apply some knowledge.
Definitely. Well, thanks again for sharing and for just kind of taking us through how you actually did it.
Anytime.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope that helps anybody out there who's curious or might have questions about how to actually leave their AMO and how to actually go about it. If you have any questions that you want to ask Michael, I've left his email in the description below as well as mine. If you want to contact me just for more questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And thanks to those who have been contacting me, emailing me, sharing their story with me via email. Thanks so much for reaching out. I've also left the link to the FTC below if you'd like to file a complaint, if you feel so inclined to do so. I do know that once they get a certain amount of complaints, they will launch an investigation against these AMOs to shut them down, maybe, and to investigate to see what's actually going on. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.